5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Action!
I published when I was self-published. You
Uh-huh.
know, you do your best. You pay $700 for somebody to edit a manuscript, and it comes back, and you think it's right. You put it out there. Somebody's like, "Hey, did you notice this?" No.
Oh my
No, I
God!
did not.
Yeah. That's a whack of cash. Like, I mean, that is a whack of cash. I mean, I don't know. I self-edit, and it's a pain in the ass. I mean, I've self-published 3 short novellas, like horror novellas, like maybe 25,000 words each.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember once I got to like my 50th reading, like I was hating it. I was literally, well, maybe not 50th, but 25 or something. I mean, they were quite short to chop through. Trying to hunt out like rogue full stops and stuff. And I remember once I counted how many like quotation marks I put in, and there was an odd number. So I literally had to go through the whole thing. I couldn't find it any other way, you know, just sentence by sentence to then just try to find it. Like,
Oh, I've done Control F quote mark space, Control F quote mark no space, space quote. Like I've searched for so many weird character combinations through the whole doc, just to be like, could I put a space before and after the period?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I always do a Control F for period space space, even though a lot of people do that on purpose. I hate the extra space. So anyway.
Very good, man. Well, listen, it's a pleasure to talk to you, sir. Like, it really is very much a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Certainly.
Thanks for having me on.
No, at
all. And that's why when you reached out to me, I was like, well, there's a lot to talk about. We've both entered and placed in international writing competitions together.
That's right.
And we both lost quite a bit of flubber. So.
Yeah, that's right. Indeed. Here in Vietnam, they went through just for quarantine precaution. They had actually closed down all hostels. So just slowly but surely, everyone was able to. It was kind of one of those times where when people realized that they had to move to a hotel, those that counted that they couldn't afford it, then had to leave. If you see what I mean, there's a way of managing it. Yeah. So what's happened out here actually then is that a bunch of us from like just on the same weekend from different hotels and stuff then just came to this one. So that's worked out quite well actually.
Yeah, I don't know much about Vietnam. I'm ashamed to say. My dad spent some time there during war. But I'm wondering how are the conditions there? Is the hospitals being overrun? Is it pretty rough?
Oh God, no! They've completely contained it. There have been a total. This is out of a population of like 67 million. They've only had 254 cases total.
Wow.
And then as the cases are like, and then 0 deaths, right? So now it's like they're just getting better, and then they stop having the symptoms, and then we're now down to, out of the 251, I mean, we're down to like, I think it's like 73 or something. So, and maybe like a week ago, there's about 100. So it's just getting better and better over here. They've contained it very well. So there hasn't really been that much of an outbreak, actually. So I'm very lucky for that, man, I have to say. Like, so yeah, how's it all over there, man? It's looking a bit insane. In Europe's looking insane, I thought.
Yeah, I haven't been looking at the numbers daily like I was. I found that it was really starting to leach into my soul and like just. And what's weird is I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and hi, buddy. I'm up in the north, very very far off the beaten path. Like I'm almost to the edge of the city limits. So there's not a lot of cases or anybody ill around me that I know. But the grocery stores are still very limited supply of everything, if they even have anything. Oh, hi, buddy.
Hello.
I'm gonna talk to this guy for a little while. Will you go downstairs with Mom for a little bit? Thank you, buddy.
If he comes in, that's totally fine. Like, don't worry about it and such.
I'm not.
Good.
I know me. I won't keep a train of thought because I have some ADD, and my son is he gloms onto me, and it's the best thing. I'm not complaining at all. I love it. But he is joined at my hip most of the time, and I'm usually like, what's up, buddy? You know. Constantly engaged there, so I wanted to be able to give you some attention.
Cheers, man.
And there's my other boys raising hell, my dogs out there. So I just took each of those guys on one's a girl, one's a boy. I got a Jeff and a Stella.
Nice.
And I try to daily take them on a quick half-mile run,
Mm.
keeping about an 8-minute mile pace ish. Um, 4 minutes or so of exercise for them a day. I figure that's between that and they will just zigzag through the yard, and they cut
Oh, yeah.
turns hard enough to throw up plumes of dirt and
Oh,
grass.
Jesus, yeah.
Especially the girl, Stella. She's a little lower to the ground,
Mm.
and they're both pit bull mixes.
Oh.
They're both rescues. I don't really know what they are,
Oh, yeah.
but she is just a little ball of meat. She's so solid. It's insane how powerful that little thing is.
God.
And I have to run her when I'm fresh because she drags me the whole time, and she'll just suddenly stop.
Oh, God.
And it's like, oh my God, you're gonna rip my arm out of socket. That's been part of my motivation is just to dive right into it. So yeah, I guess that's a good segue. Let me derail this whole thing and get to the meat of the matter, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So I have struggled with my weight my whole life.
Mhm.
I've written my whole life too, and maybe there's a correlation because I will say that I'm an alcoholic. I nearly have 10 years sober. 5/5/10 is my sobriety date.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I have not been involved in the group in a while, but I did get sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. I had a spiritual experience, the whole nine. It really did. It changed my life. I have no reason to say anything ill towards any recovery program.
Mhm.
I just kind of I veered out of the program as my family grew because I wanted to shelter my kids from that lifestyle, and
Oh.
some people see it differently than me. And I don't mean it as an insult, but I just didn't want my kids knowing that drinking and drugging was common, because it's not common around the people I hang out with now. It's like nobody I know gets shit-faced on the regular. I don't even know many people that smoke anymore. And I know each country has its own culture, but and each part of our country. But where I'm from, everybody smoked and drank. And I was all obviously younger. Now I live out here. And I don't know, I just wanted to create this little bubble for my kids. And so I just kind of stopped participating in it with a dedication to family and fitness as a good way to stay clean and sober. And I've always kind of used that as a backdrop to my sobriety. Anyway, I struggle with my weight my whole life. I've lost 30 pounds 4 or 5 different times throughout my life. When I was in my 20s, I think I was probably about 22. So this would have been in 2002, 2001, 2002. I was a bartender. I drank a lot, obviously. And I really didn't do much.
That does happen. I've worked in bars before. It does happen. It does happen.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I got really good at slamming vodka without making a face while I was bartending. But, there's a reason I haven't had a drink in 10 years, thankfully, because I had enough to make up for it in my 20s. But
God, yeah.
Yeah, so I tried an idiot's version of Atkins in my 20s. I didn't know anything about it. I was waiting tables. I just knew that I was going to eat more shrimp and steak and less French fries.
Here's the thing, just quickly now. There's the Atkins diet, and then there's the South Beach diet. Are they same, but different?
No, I don't think they are. I'm not real familiar with the South Beach diet, to be honest with you. I didn't study a lot of diets. I tried a few things. I tried just avoiding carbs, but without any knowledge of why I was doing it. I just heard that it would help you lose fat, and that carbs were carbs and fat was fat. And if you didn't eat carbs, you would burn fat. I didn't know anything about the physiology. I've since filled a lot of gaps in that knowledge, but back then I just tried it, and I lost about 25 or 30 pounds. And every time I would reach a goal, I would go back to eating regular. I would go back to less exercise.
Yes.
Weight. And so that was the thing for me. It was always goal-driven, calorie restriction, a lot of hunger to get me to goal weights. And as soon as I reached it, it's like, yay, I can relax and rest on my laurels. And then, over the course of months or years, it would creep back on. So I had this little existential moment right before I turned 30. I had been dating a girl who was almost probably 10 years younger than me. And I broke it off because I wanted to get sober again. I had relapsed, messing with the wrong young crowd, trying to recapture some of my youth, and maybe that's why drinking had appealed to me. But this was a decision where I just wanted to fix it all again. And I went on this serious, low-fat, high cardio diet where all I was doing was I was riding my mountain bike up and down the canals in the heat of summer for 3-4 hours a day. I was doing some light weightlifting, and I was swimming a lot, doing a lot of laps in the pool. And then I remember I was having turkey bacon for breakfast every day. I was having a grilled chicken salad for dinner every night. And I had a cup of strawberries with a tablespoon of sugar sprinkled over it for dessert with a big glass of milk every night. I had this routine down, and I was never full. I was never quite satisfied. And I looked forward to it because I would have a big steak on the weekends instead of my chicken salad. And I would always look forward to that steak. But I was watching the scale like a hawk, and every time I'd have the steak, it would stunt my weight loss. So I'm like, oh, can't do that. Anyway, I reached a pretty good weight. I woke up on my 30th birthday, and also part of this is I quit smoking cigarettes. I was a tobacco user since 14, and so here I am about to be 30. And so the night before my birthday, I actually drove my mountain bike on a long trip through downtown Phoenix. And I went up to the top of the parking garage where I worked at the time, which was like a 6 or 7 story parking garage. And I sat up there and I smoked the last cigarette that I had. And that's the last cigarette I've had since then, 2010.
Again, congratulations on that. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, it was just something where drinking and smoking went hand in hand. So every time I'd start drinking again, I could never stop smoking. But I'd made up my mind that I was done drinking, and I didn't want to be in my 30s as a smoker. It was something mental about that was a no-fly zone, if you will, for me. No, I don't want to do that. So I gained a great deal of weight. I also met my wife right after my birthday, but on my 30th birthday, I woke up, I took a picture. You could start to see my hip flexors and my obliques, and I thought, I'm the sexiest person alive. This is great. And then I blew up like that. I met my wife a month later. We dated fast and furious. I told her I loved her, and we got married within a very short time. Let's see, we met in August of 10, and we were married 4/16 of 11, which was yesterday. 9 years.
Oh my goodness!
Happy anniversary!
Well done, and congratulations indeed. Well done to the two of you. All right, aye.
Yeah, she's a saint to stick with me. But
God, imagine
social distancing. I'm in a fairly offbeat, not offbeat, but rural-ish area of the city. So we still have city trails open. And as much as it may dismay people that I went outside during this quarantine, we did. We went on a 3-hour hike. We ran into about 4 people total, and none of us hung out and breathed on each other, and it was pretty windy. So I feel like we've flattened the curve. But it was a beautiful celebration of the journey we've made together. As far as we've both, had quite a bit of weight. I think we both lost 55, 60 pounds each.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
And that's after 3 kids, which so that's where I was getting to.
Yeah.
We got married very shortly. Got pregnant. I gained a ton of weight with the first pregnancy, but we were young and love and happy. And as soon as my daughter was born, we grew out of the place we were living, which was a flat downtown apartment. It was one level on the top floor, and I just, even on the patio, when the baby started crawling, I was like, yeah, get away. So we went and bought a house.
God, yeah.
We went and bought a house and set to work on filling up the rooms. And I've got a picture on my Instagram of my baptism. I'm wearing a big red shirt. I'm in a pool of water, and the shirt is an extra large at least, and it's stretched to the max.
That's
you could just
right. That's right. I know that photograph. Yeah. Keep going. Yeah.
I was about 240, and I'm only 5'9". uh, and that's on a good day.
Oh, 240.
And that was just after my second child was born, which was my biggest. Um, and at that point, when they mailed me a photograph, the one that you see, they mailed it in an envelope. Congratulations on your walk with Christ. It'd been a long journey for me between my grandmother, and I don't know if you've read 13 Lives, I think you have, but the scene of his baptism in that book was my baptism. At 12 years old, my grandmother insisted it was time for me to get baptized. It wasn't a surprise. I went along willingly, and I came out of the water, and I didn't feel any different, and it kind of ruined the whole thing for me. So I wrote about it in that novel, about it being his baptism was the thing that drove him into not believing in God. And it wasn't quite like that, but I became an atheist for most of my life. And then the program led me into willingness to believe in a higher power. And my journey is very unusual and scattered from there, and that's not what this is about really, but fitness has been a big part of my journey, and I think it's a huge part of my spirituality, so maybe we will get more into it.
Goodness me, that's a really good way to place it, actually. I mean, because we've got a couple of things that we can chase up with that, actually, but it's not on that point. Yeah, there's quite a lot here, actually, and what I find as well is that, what I respect about you, it's your dedication. You've picked a target, and you've, through incremental steps, been able to walk towards it. I mean, when you look at that photograph there, which is coming up, with you in the red T-shirt, I'd seen you post that on the Facebook. You're like, hey guys, I forget which anniversary it was, but here's a photograph of you today, and then here's the red T-shirt photograph. And I remember thinking, man, you still looked good and solid, kind of thing, in that photograph, in all fairness. And then I remember then looking at your today photo, and I was like, oh wow, you look like you belong on the set of like 300 compared to what you did look like, And I was kind of, no worries. Surreal. Oh, it blew me away a bit as well, because A, the transformation is really cool looking, the way you've done it there. And second, I remember feeling that I'm at that stage in my life where I'm carrying more weight than I want to, And particular for me, I mean, I never had fat arms or fat legs, but in particular had that like pregnancy belly, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It looks kind of embarrassing. It kind of hurt my self-esteem plummeted a bit, as a result of having it as I got older. Yeah. So when I seen the transformation in you, I have to say I was very much blown away, like really well done. And that's why I'm happy to have you on this show. I mean, we're going to try to break this down a bit. I mean, if you're sitting at home, folks, I mean, I don't know, maybe if you're 30 and above, maybe it's harder to lose the weight and such. MD Thalmann here, I mean,
it's a cumulative, I think I feel, and I want to get to it gently, but it's a cumulative effect. It's a cumulative effect of diet and lifestyle. Okay. And it's long since, so I became an atheist. I went to college and studied anthropology mostly. I was super into planetary physics as curiosity.
Do you mean like inner planets, outer planets, gas giants and whatnot?
Yeah, just the way the whole universe, like anytime I could learn about the universe and the origin of time, as Stephen Hawking's work, I was very simple for me. I really liked it. But so that was more of a hobby, and that's why I started trying to write space opera. But where I studied and actually developed theories of my own, or I don't know if I developed them, but really started to engage with the material, was in anthropology. And I really loved the study of human evolution and where we came from. So to me, I had these questions a long time ago. I had very poor dental health as a child. I have a very, I guess, common story from impoverished kids growing up that have poor dental health and poor overall health. But there were all these problems, and I just thought, these are weird problems to have. Like, as a species, for us to have teeth that rot out of our head, why is that?
Yeah.
And for us to have such trouble going to the bathroom, why? Like, that doesn't seem normal to me, and it always troubled me. And I'm bringing that up because it's cumulative damage from lifestyle, and I figured that out because I've been able to reverse a great deal of crap
Oh,
that's happened over the years.
yeah.
So here I am. I get my photograph in the mail, and it's supposed to be a joyous day of me accepting a walk with God. And I look at the picture, and I'm just mortified. I'm like, that is insane. I am a short, very fat guy, and I had the beard grown out because I
That's
couldn't
right.
find a I couldn't find a jawline without it.
Oh,
I
God.
just I was out of breath putting on shoes. It was truly, appearance is one thing and self-esteem is another thing, but I was truly unhealthy.
Oh, Jesus,
Uh,
that is bad, actually. Yeah.
and the thing about it is people would say, you're in your 30s, things are going to start breaking. Like,
Yes.
why? Why would we wear out at 30? No, we don't. We poison ourselves by 30 with high doses of sugar and wheat and other grains and crap that's bad for our body in unsavory doses and unsavory timing. And so I started bodybuilding. I've always idolized you. You've listed one of the bullet points as inspiration. So Bruce Lee, I was big into martial arts as a kid,
Uh-huh.
and Arnold Schwarzenegger because I grew up in America in the 80s.
Schwarzenegger's good, though. Schwarzenegger's good. Like, he's good in Europe as well. Like, yeah.
Oh yeah. But I've always found him to be an inspiration, not just his acting and his tongue-in-cheek making fun of himself, though that is one of my favorite things. It's his story, his drive. What brought him here? He knew nothing. He knew nobody. He stuck around. He stuck with it. He saw a goal. He went for it. So I wanted to be like him, and I went and got the Arnold Schwarzenegger blueprint from bodybuilding.com, and I followed the program, and I lost some fat. I was force feeding myself a bunch of food to try to keep up with the recommendations, but I built a lot of muscle, and I started to get a good base of fitness. So I would say that was very valuable for me. But I was eating a ridiculous amount of food, and anytime I missed the gym, the weights would start to creep back in, and I was in pain. I had shoulder pain. I had all kinds of inflammation. My face was puffy. And so when you talked about looking at the picture and I felt you feel like I looked pretty good, and then a year later even better. So I started this journaling and Instagram for fitness only. I've really only got it dedicated to fitness. And if you scroll back, there's a ton of pictures over the last 4 years of me flexing, and you can see me come up and down in weight. But using bodybuilding, I went from 240 down to about 220 pretty easy. And then it was really tough to get from 220 to 205. And I stayed at 205 for a while. And it was really hard. And like I said, I look back at those pictures of me at 205 and I look and I'm just like, God, you're so puffy. Your face is just swollen from all I was taking every supplement on the shelf. I was force feeding myself food after having protein shakes. I was doing all the recommended things. I even had a special drink called Dark Matter, which was designed to spike your insulin really high right after a workout. And it gave me terrible gastrointestinal distress, but I didn't wake up sore from leg day the next day. So I was like, oh, fuck it. Pardon my language. But the point is that I thought I looked pretty good. And then I see pictures of me now versus then. And I'm like, wow, I hope I don't look at pictures of me now, today's 2020, in 2022 and say, what a fat ass, because then I've got some serious mental issues.
Yes, that is true. That is.
Anytime somebody works out as much as me and my wife do, there's always, am I dysmorphic? Like, do I see myself in an accurate light, whether it's flattering or unflattering? Is this real? So, so to hear you say that, it does bring me some comfort because, I look at pictures of me now and I'm like, that's not real. How did I do that? That's so insane that I got that fit.
It is, man. It is.
And I'm not even like the pinnacle of fitness, but the point that I've been belaboring to get to is I used everything that everybody was doing. I even reached out on Facebook to say, which one of these testosterone boosters works best? And my buddy said, why do you need a testosterone booster? Have you had your testosterone tested? No, but more is always better. So he said, just go to the doctor and get it tested. So I did. And he said, wow, you have practically none. So would you like some testosterone injections? And I did that for 2 years. And I was taking the testosterone injections and going to the gym. And I did lean out some more. That's where I got down to sub 205. I got down to about 200, maybe as low as 198. I remember breaking 200 for a day. And I think it's because I went on a long hike and didn't drink enough water.
Mm.
But I was like, yeah, don't drink anymore today. You'll wake up skinny. But so here's the thing. I had acne on my back from the injections, from the testosterone. The testosterone did make a lot of other things better. I stopped waking up to urinate in the middle of the night. My blood pressure went down with the testosterone treatment, and I got better sleep. I was more focused. So it had a lot of advantages.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought of it as treating the root cause. The root cause was that I had low testosterone, and that's why I was so fat. And I kept chasing that root cause. And why did I have low testosterone is where I got to where I'm at today. And that's what I think. And it's not just low testosterone. It's a hormonal imbalance, and people are chasing one metric. That's why blood tests are so misleading. You get to chasing after one thing like LDL and not looking at anything else in the whole picture. You can't look at the body as independent systems. You have to look at it as a whole. Health is a snapshot of where you are right now. So
an holistic approach. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm taking testosterone. I'm feeling a little better. I went to my 20-year high school. Oh, no. First, I had to cycle off of it. I'm sorry. This is getting long-winded. I had to cycle off testosterone in order to have a third child. And that took 2 years. And as soon as I quit testosterone, I couldn't lift as heavy without, and my tendonitis started coming back. I was getting hurt. I was getting hurt, and I wasn't enjoying my workouts, and I felt weak. And I knew this would happen until my body reacclimated. But I decided that in order to avoid gaining weight, which always happened if I missed the gym, I would always gain weight back because of my high carb diet, come to find out. So I decided to look into CrossFit. CrossFit is a lot of high intensity. If you don't know, it's constantly varied high intensity movements carried out, functional movements.
It looks good, actually, the CrossFit, I thought. Yeah. I haven't done it yet. But go ahead.
It's honestly, that's the biggest factor in all of my health, CrossFit. And I don't go to a CrossFit gym or pay CrossFit dues. I honestly highly recommend that if you can afford a CrossFit gym, it could change your life. And that's because of the holistic approach. If you go to CrossFit.com, it's scientific articles, it's dietary suggestions, it's focused on the elderly and the infirm. The goal of CrossFit is not to become the CrossFit Games champion. That is a competition that's not associated with the main program. The goal of CrossFit is to flatten the curve. Basically, you have a trajectory of your life for work capacity.
Okay.
You reach a peak for work capacity. This is when you're at your fittest. At your fittest, you can perform the most work. You have the most horsepower. So as you age, that generally declines until you're infirm and you need help getting off the couch. The goal of CrossFit is to flatten that to where you have not just longevity, but you have quality of life throughout. Their goal is to work on functional fitness for life preparation, general physical preparedness. That's the $3 phrase there. So anyway, I've kind of fast forwarded, but I started looking into CrossFit because I could lift lighter weights at higher intensity. I could start to incorporate some cardio and stay fit. And for 18 months, I maintained my weight without testosterone by doing CrossFit with the same diet. And I wasn't even doing CrossFit. I was just kind of intuitively intensifying my workouts. And sometimes I would see something on the CrossFit Games. So I hadn't gone to CrossFit.com yet. I had seen CrossFit Games on ESPN and said, holy shit, that's cool. I'd like to try a third of that. And the other 2/3 I'll never try. I'm never going to snatch weight over my head. What kind of asshole wants to put that much weight over their head? Because there's nothing quite as satisfying as snatching a grip of weight off the floor and catching it. But
yeah,
exacting. So yeah. 18 months I maintained my weight, and then my son was born, and I stopped going to the gym, and I gained all that weight back. And went
Oh.
and my wife got involved with a company called Advocare, and they sell diet products. And they used to be a multi-level marketing type of scenario, and she got involved with it to sell it. We never made any real money off of it because we were more in it to help people. I think we didn't focus on selling to people that didn't really want to be sold. Anyway, we both used that to start losing weight. I went back on the testosterone injections as soon as my son was born because I was fat again, instantly 30 pounds heavier. And I didn't intuitively realize that it was diet. I just assumed that I was able to stave off the fat man long enough by adding cardio in. And now it was time to go back to being a big old boy. So I went back on the injections, and fast forward a little bit, I missed an injection the day before my high school reunion, my 20-year high school reunion. I flew out of state and didn't bring the needles with me. I landed on a Friday morning, which is normally when I take my injection, and I said, oh no. And I had already lined up a bunch of CrossFit workouts with buddies from high school at local gyms where I grew up. So I went and did all the workouts, and by Monday, I literally couldn't move. I had all my tendons on fire. I was feeling weak and nauseous. Testosterone injections halt your natural production. It's a negative feedback loop. So your body produces it when it needs it. It doesn't need it if you get it exogenously. Anyway, I decided then and there that that wasn't optimal. If a war broke out, if a plague or COVID-19 came, I would be at the mercy of supply for my health. So and at this time, I had already started to go to CrossFit.com and learn about the methodologies of CrossFit. And you can look this up. I have a poster hanging in my home right above my coffee maker. And it says fitness in 100 words. And I don't remember all the 100 words, but I remember the first: eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some starch, little fruit, no sugar. That's the first bit of fitness, according to the CrossFit methodology. It doesn't say anything about lifting weights. It does in part of the 100 words, but the first is all about what goes in your mouth. So I went online and I watched some videos called The Purpose of CrossFit, which is all about the productive application of force and why they don't do dumbbell curls or these things with the shoulder flies. They don't do those. Those always hurt my shoulders anyway. So I was like, all right, maybe I shouldn't do them. And I haven't in years. And then I saw another video called Chronic Disease, We Have the Answer. And I watched that. And it basically said chronic disease, which is 88% of death in the developed world, is all completely preventable and mostly caused by sugar and vegetable oil. And I was like, that seems like a really bold claim.
It's a very bold claim, yeah.
And then next came an article, put out an interview put out by CrossFit of Gary Taubes. Gary Taubes is a brilliant writer. He started out, he's got a physics and engineering degree. He was writing for Science on bad science and physics, I believe, and was told, oh, if you want to see some bad science, come over to the nutrition world. And so he wrote a famous article in the New York Times called What If It's All Been a Big Fat Lie, I think was the name of it. And it had a picture of a ribeye with a pat of butter on it. And the premise was that saturated fat, animal fat in particular, is the healthiest fuel source, not the unhealthy, that there's no correlation between any coronary artery disease or obesity or anything like that. And he had a boatload of research to back it up. I was like, holy crap, this is interesting. So I go to my high school reunion, and my dad, who has been type 2 diabetic for a while, but not with insulin, comes by, and I'm eating sunflower seeds and beef jerky. And he says, what's with all that rabbit food? And I realized there might be something to this. Like, I'm eating nuts and meat, and my dad thinks that's rabbit food. And he's diabetic. So before by the time I got home, my dad was sick while I was at my high school reunion, which was very disheartening.
Mhm.
By the time I got home, I found out that he had been put on insulin a couple days later, and that's why I felt so sick. His diabetes had gotten worse. So I really dove into the research on this, and I dropped below 200 fairly easy. I was about 193
Mhm.
at this point, and that was from I knew to avoid sugar. I had heard of insulin resistance. I had heard of fasting, intermittent fasting, but
Mhm.
I couldn't pull it off. I was always hungry. Um, so I started looking into, the more I did the research with Gary Taubes in particular, the more I would uncover the ketogenic diet. Uh,
Mhm.
and
Oh yeah, yeah.
and by this time, I've been doing CrossFit exclusively for a couple years. I'm starting to develop some of the skills that they require. Like I've gotten decent at Olympic lifting. I've gotten a lot more mobility through constant stretching to do overhead squats. I'm starting to be able to do double unders, which is the jump roping exercise that'll make you want to kill yourself.
Oh my goodness, I do the
Oh,
skipping myself. The double unders. I still haven't got around to that yet. You're doing the double unders, you say?
yeah. I can do double unders now, but when I first started, I would have welts all over my ass because it's a speed rope, and if you catch it with your foot wrong, it just flips up and
Yeah, yeah,
smacks.
yeah.
My calves, thighs, and ass were just welted. I
Wow.
can't believe I stuck. Well, honestly, that's probably the toughest thing I ever stuck with the least payoff. But so yeah, I kept doing research on diet, and it kept leading me to low carb. So I decided to give the ketogenic diet a try.
Mhm.
And almost as soon as I started the ketogenic diet, I heard about the carnivore diet. And I
Mhm.
was like,
Mhm.
that sounds awesome. And my wife was like, don't be stupid. That's not awesome. And I'm like, no, seriously, that sounds awesome, but I'm not going to do it. I could never do it.
Mm.
It sounds awesome. And she's like, why does it sound awesome? And I'm like, just something from when I was in college studying anthropology, they mentioned that meat eating was one of the big boons to our brain growth and
Oh
to the
really?
development of our, yeah. So being able to eat meat, and actually since then there's been research that shows since the agricultural revolution, Neolithic revolution, our brain size has shrunk considerably because we eat less meat. But anyway,
Uh-huh.
that's what I've been reading about now with Dr. Paul Saladino, who's a carnivore code author. But anyway, so I heard about this diet and I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. But I filed it away for never going to work, never going to happen. But I
Uh-huh.
thought, oh, but I was curious enough to where I wanted to research as much as I could. Why could it work? And there's a great channel on YouTube called What I've Learned, and they've got a video called Why Would a Carnivore Diet Work? And I watched that years ago, and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. Anyway, I started doing the keto diet. I made it about 9 days in, and I was ready to give up. I was on my way to the gym. I had been performing poorly at the gym, and skipping the gym was not an option because I would instantly get fat if I missed the gym. This was my belief. Uh, I was on the way to the gym on day 9, and I never ate before the gym. I always worked out about 6 a.m. If I eat, I usually,
Mm. Mhm.
risk feeling queasy. But
Ah, yeah, that's right. That's right.
I knew that my performance had been terrible, so I had been taking fat bombs with me, which is just it had a little bit of protein powder, a little bit of peanut butter, some butter, and some
Ah.
coconut oil. And
Oh.
you put them in the freezer. They're mushy. They're like silly putty at room temperature, but
All
it's
right.
like a little freezer cookie. A little bit of sweet, a little bit of savory. And so
Nice.
I took a couple of those with me on the way to the gym, and I ate them. And uh, there's MCT oil in it too with the coconut oil. And I suddenly felt a euphoria. Like as soon as that got into my system, as soon as I didn't feel hungry and irritable anymore, I felt a euphoria, and it lasted for a long time, weeks. And so I continued to eating the ketogenic diet. My weight dropped to 190, 185 ish
Uh-huh.
there at the beginning, and then it went back up. It went back up to about 190, and I held it there. Well, 185. I mean, it stayed at 185, and I held
Nice.
it there. And about a year. And I wasn't eating keto the whole time. I kept falling off the wagon.
Uh-huh.
I often, when I was doing a keto diet, it would be real heavy with meat
Uh-huh.
and vegetables about 6 days a week, and then one day a week I would go just nuts. And that's probably why I stayed.
Ah.
That's probably why I stayed at 185 because a cheat day turns into 2 cheat days. A cheat meal turns into a cheat day. I've always had a love affair with food, which is why I've fought my weight so much. But keto did something really important for me, and that was it got me fat adapted. Fat adapted is a process with not getting too detailed. There's a genetic lever or genetic switch inside all of us
Okay.
that should have been triggered by now, but it likely hasn't due to the Neolithic Revolution.
Okay.
Your body right now runs on glucose as its primary fuel source.
Mm-hmm.
It has to have a favorable endocrine ratio, or you have to have glucagon and insulin are the
Okay.
two primary hormone level. So those two hormones play an antagonistic role with one another. If glucagon is high, then you can mobilize fat. If insulin is high, you can't mobilize fat. So,
Okay.
so if you go prolonged periods with high glucagon, your body will mobilize fat, and the more of the fat you metabolize, the more it'll produce ketones. Ketones are a secondary metabolite, but they're also they're very similar to a hormone in that they have signaling properties, and they can affect certain receptors. I'm not a scientist.
Yeah.
I'm parroting this back, but
Mm-hmm.
the fact of the matter is that ketones have a quality about them which they can make your fat cells increase in metabolic rate, so they can have fat cells produce more mitochondria and become more thermal to produce heat, to waste energy. So it can also have your muscle cells and other cells throughout your body will increase in the number of mitochondria, and the mitochondria will become more efficient. The keto flu, that adaptation period that a lot of people have heard about, it's a multifactored problem. It's not a flu, and it's often avoidable. The first is electrolytes. When you drop your insulin levels really low, your body, your kidneys get rid of a lot of water because you don't need as much water in your body. Insulin leads to inflammation. Also, carbohydrates have to be stored with water. So for every gram of carbs, there's like 4 grams of water. So when you that's in the storage form of glycogen anyway. But when you drop your insulin low, and a lot of people experience this on a ketogenic diet, you get diuresis, which is you just got to pee all the time. And with that goes a lot of electrolytes. So if you're not replacing salt, magnesium, things like that, you will get lightheaded and feel crappy. And the other thing is your body is not used to metabolizing fat. It's not used to producing ketones, and it doesn't have the same amount of mitochondria as it will after 6 weeks of fat adapting. So yeah, it's a switch. It triggers a genetic mutation that's it's possible in humans. It's not possible in bears, ironically enough. Bears hibernate. Bears live off their fat stores, but they don't go into ketosis. They don't have the demand that humans do. Our demand is our giant energy-hungry brains. So we're one of the creatures that have the ability to go into ketosis. Babies are born in ketosis because you need a fuel source capable of fueling that hungry brain, like ketones. Ketones elicit way more ATP production than glucose per unit. Ketones are more efficient. They also produce less reactive oxygen species. So it is a cleaner fuel, a more efficient fuel. And reactive oxygen species lead to aging, as we all knew.
There it is. Yes.
So here you go. If you want me to boil it down to one thing, after all this research I found out is that carbohydrates are a fast-burning fuel that wreck your body and make you age. Fat is a sustainable and good fuel that preserves your body in longevity. And as a byproduct of fat metabolism, you get ketones. Ketones make your muscles stronger and more resilient. They eliminate joint pain. They can get rid of all kinds of inflammation disorders like eczema even. My plantar fasciitis only comes back when I eat crappy. And it all sounds like you've got to be pulling my leg, but there's a ton of research out there to show this stuff. And so I got to looking at it. All right, so a human being can carry 2,000 calories worth of glucose or glycogen on them at one point in time. That's their fuel tank. A skinny person can carry something like 77,000 calories worth of fat at a given time. So you're telling me that you have a 70,000 calorie fuel tank and you have a 2,000 calorie fuel tank and you're burning the 2,000 as primary and stopping to fill it up every 2 hours? That's dumb, y'all. That's dumb. So it's always been about the common sense factor for me. And the common sense factor is, no, your teeth don't need to rot out of your head. Did you know that on a carnivorous diet, you don't get cavities?
Oh, wow.
You don't get cavities. No,
Oh.
you don't get cavities. There's nothing to feed the bacteria if you eat a meat and salt diet. Meat and salt is very hard to do. I've done it for a couple weeks at a time here and there, but usually I have to have hamburgers, eggs, cheese, bacon. But even that, there's cases of people having gingivitis reversed through carnivorous diets. So I'm like, yeah, I'm into that because that's a big deal. Gingivitis has been closely linked to heart disease. And why? Because heart disease is a problem of insulin resistance, which is a problem of sugar consumption. There is seriously not one thing that I have found that is not in some way related to lifestyle, except for, genetic disorders, things that you're going to get because you chose the wrong parents. In this paradigm, CrossFit says, don't look at a metric like blood pressure. Like if you eat meat and it raises your cholesterol, but you're stronger and healthier and you have more endurance and you can, function better, then why are you worried about your cholesterol? Why would you trade a positive cholesterol marker for death at an early age or living in a nursing home being convalesced? You want to maximize that time as a productive, happy person. And so again, I'm chasing the root cause, and I'm watching this video. You may or may not have heard of Rich Froning. He's one of the most famous He's one of the most famous CrossFitters ever. He won the competition 4 times in a row.
Wow.
Which it had never been done before. It's since been done by another guy. But he's an icon in the sport, and he's honestly that little sidebar. As I'm looking at pictures of men, fit men, and that's a weird segue, but I'm comfortable. As I'm looking at pictures of fit men, I look at bodybuilders and I'm like, no, I don't want.
Oh God, yeah, no. I mean,
I look at a picture, even Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was humanly proportioned. At least these new guys look like sides of beef, but even Schwarzenegger, I look at that and I'm like, no, I wouldn't want to look like that. But I look at somebody like Matt Fraser, who's the current champ, or Rich Froning, who I'm referencing, and I'm like, yeah, I'd love to look like that, and it's more feasible, because he doesn't have to force feed himself to take hormones. Maybe he has to force feed. I don't know the guy, but the point is, I was watching this video and he said intermittent fasting was something that he had been doing, and that he had a single cup of black coffee in the morning and didn't eat until 2. And like I said, I had tried this many times, and I was always hungry. And then I had been in keto for over a year at this point, and I'd been fasting what I thought was fasting, or a fat fast, which is it's fine if that's what you want to do. But what it is basically I would start my day, now that I'm not taking pre-workouts and all this junk that I used to take. I would start my day, I would make a coffee with some heavy whipping cream, coconut oil, a little salt, and I would drink that on the way to the gym. And then I would, go about my business, go work out. And switching to the black coffee, I didn't think it would make a big deal. But the video said, if you do this, or I did this, and my hunger went away, and my testosterone increased by a great deal. I think he might have said it doubled. I don't know. But I was very interested in this because, as I mentioned, I had been on testosterone injections. And after going to my high school reunion back in Arkansas for my 20 year and missing the injection, I decided to cycle off. And I had gone back. I was on a keto diet. So I thought, I'm probably pretty good without it. I'll probably be healthy without these injections. I had gone back to the doctor and gotten myself tested, and they said, yeah, you're still low. You can still get the injections if you want. But I said, I feel fine. So I'm not going to do it.
Hmm.
Again, I'm not going to chase that one marker at the risk of sacrificing my health, getting acne on my back and shoulders again,
Yeah.
or having, some sort of mood disorder, which I didn't experience, but some people, are worried about.
Yeah, it does happen. It does happen. Like, it's a
The
sadness.
dose, I think dosing is a major factor on that. But so I was interested. So I said, all right, I'm going to do black coffee only. And I kid you not, that was one of the biggest game changers for me. Not consuming any calories before my workout,
Hmm.
even though it was fat. It was a calorie that wouldn't raise my insulin and would keep me in a ketogenic state. It was giving my body fuel from an external source.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if there's any physiology behind it, but when I have black coffee or nothing, my energy is fantastic and I have no hunger associated with it. But when I have anything in my coffee in the morning or any calories in the morning, it stokes the fire. It gets it. So anyway, so I did this. I did this for a month, and I went and got my testosterone tested, and it's right in the middle. I would not qualify for injections. I'm not super high. To give you a background, I was at 249 years ago, 6-7 years ago when I first got on it. When I had my son, I went back and they tested me. I was at 260, so I'd come up eight points or so, 8 to 10 points. And when I got off of testosterone after my high school reunion, I was at 312. So
Pounds. You're talking pounds, yeah?
No. I'm sorry. This is my testosterone
Oh,
millimole. Oh, sorry. No. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was very misleading. No, I was just talking about the.
I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Now. No, I'm sorry. That was confusing.
That's okay.
No. I was saying that I started at 249 though, and on a keto diet, my testosterone was about 320. But when I implemented the fasting daily, after a month, I went and it was at 500, which was quite a big jump. It was double.
Oh.
It was double what it was when I was eating the standard American diet and came to the gym.
God, that's a bit disturbing, that, actually. I mean, it's good that you got it up high, but yeah, just like standard diet.
Standard diet, low fat, high carb, especially low saturated fat. I try to eat only saturated fat. I try to eat only animal fats. I no longer use olive oil. I no longer use coconut oil. I use butter, bacon grease, and beef tallow. And that's it. I don't even like, when I cheat on the carnivore diet, which is what I've been on for a few months now, and it's really hard in the quarantine. I've got 3 kids. They're not carnivores. I'm not trying to force them to be.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's been tough. The definite. But anyway, but the point to that is when I'm cheating on my diet, I'm not cheating to have salad and salad dressing. I'm cheating to have garbage.
Yeah.
So that's probably just a window into my personal problems with in my relationship with food. But I did the fasting and some weight came off, some testosterone went up, and my energy felt good. Actually, to the point where I was over caffeinating myself and I had to stop drinking my second cup of coffee because I don't know if it was because I was on an empty stomach or my energy production was just like, I don't need that. But I had to slow down my coffee. And at that point, with fasting, I was more leaning towards meat anyway, because after coming off of a long workout, going to work for a few hours, and then I would usually, come home to cook fresh food or go to a restaurant that didn't have garbage. All I was really worried about was scoring some meat. I might have a lettuce wrapped burger, but I wasn't there for the lettuce and the pickles. I was there for the burgers, and it kind of crept in on me. So I started. I subscribed to Dr. Sean Baker. He's a big muscular giant surgeon who's been eating carnivore for years, and he's not the most polished as far as his presenting of the facts, but still he had a compelling story. And I'm not saying he's not educated. He obviously is. Some people just have better presenting
Okay.
skills. But there's but I highly recommend. I'm still follow his channel. I'm not insulting
Yeah,
the guy.
yeah,
I'm
I'll
saying
check him out.
he's more of like the man's man, like telling you like, yeah, bro, you can do this. And he lifts weights and eats steaks. That's his whole thing.
Oh,
But he
yeah.
runs he runs a Meat RX is the website. He runs that. And he's helping a lot of people get healthy. They got all of these testimonials of people who have reversed chronic illness, Crohn's, um, uh, what's the other one? Arthritis relief.
Oh,
People with all kinds of health conditions, including depression and anxiety, getting cured from this. So I started researching into this, and there's quite a bit of research out there. There's a guy named Paul Mason, Dr. Paul Mason. I believe he's from Australia, and he has a couple videos on fat metabolism, ketogenic diets, and he has one on the importance of dietary fiber. And then there's a couple on plant toxins. So it's not to beat around the bush.
mm-hmm.
The premise of the carnivore way of eating is from a genetic evolutionary standpoint, fatty red meat is all you need.
Oh, that's music to my ears. I'm like, oh, that's steak every day then, isn't it?
Yep.
But can you put in like sausages too, or go ahead? Go ahead.
You can dirty carnivore is better than a regular diet for sure. Sausages often have some sugars and stuff in there.
Yeah, they are the bad guys in the plate, like.
But I still bacon is often cured in sugar, and I'll still eat that. It's to get uncured bacon is very expensive, and there's 5 people in my house that eat bacon. So again, I'm not perfect, but it's degree by degree, So I'm doing this. I'm finding out like why do we need fiber? You don't. There's zero scientific evidence that you need fiber in your diet. The constipation is actually been in all the clinical trials I've seen. Adding fiber to constipation makes it worse. Removing fiber makes it better. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. I've got a couple of videos on our digestive and intestinal tracts versus other obligate carnivores versus other herbivores. And I don't see any evidence suggesting that we're not primarily carnivorous. Obviously, we have the ability to eat plants, but my viewpoint is that plants became an emergency food. That's what you found if you couldn't find meat, because the amount of people you can feed off of one kill is tremendous, whereas the amount of work needed to feed a tribe off of plants is outstanding, and it's quite honestly not sustainable for nomadic cultures. They can't outrun the weather. They don't have trains.
Certainly, yeah, that's correct.
So from an evolutionary standpoint, most people could tolerate meat only. So I'm like, all right, but why? Well, all plants have defense mechanisms. So all animals have defense mechanisms too, but they're hooves and teeth, and they'll gore you and split you in half or run away. Animals are good at running and climbing. Plants, not so good at this. So they have secondary metabolites as well. They have anti-nutrients. So a handful of kidney beans, uncooked, will kill you. A few pounds of spinach will kill you.
I don't believe a few pounds of spinach would kill you, surely?
Hold on. It's I don't know if a few is right, but...
yeah, because we were putting the references in at the bottom. Like,
how many pounds of spinach will kill you? Some research shows it would take about 25 grams of oxalic acid to cause death in a 145-pound person, which would equate to about 7.3 pounds of spinach.
Whoa!
Yeah, I'll try to send the link. There's one of these.
Of course, yeah.
Now, oxalates are one of the things that are in plants, and oxalates, they're bad. They're bad news. They can cause thyroid issues. They can cause joint pain. Anyway, so I'm doing this research, and it says all plants have a defense mechanism, and some affect some people, and some affect other people, and some affect none of us. And then it comes to gluten. Gluten's a great one. Gluten affects everybody. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. Okay, but it does, though. Scientifically, everybody reacts poorly to gluten. Some people, it crosses a threshold where it reaches celiac, but the mucosal lining of your intestines, when reacting to glucose, thins for everyone.
No.
Period. It is not, and a thinner mucus lining is, you're not trying to get thin there. That's bad. That allows gut permeability, which leads to a whole host of problems. So
Oh.
if you have celiac, or if you're celiac, you have a thinner mucus layer. When exposed to gluten, it drops below the threshold, and it causes leaky gut and all kinds of other painful and health-threatening issues. If you have a healthy gut mucose layer, it still thins it. So wheat is not good for humans. It is not something we ever should have eaten. I love it. I do. I love it. I don't blame you. I don't blame anybody. I had some yesterday for my wedding anniversary. But I don't suffer any illusions that it's good for me. And I think that was a big step for me, is people who do plant-based diets, and I don't debate. It's a personal thing. There's a lot of reasons. I just, if you do it under the impression that it's healthy, it's healthier maybe for a little while than eating the standard American diet. But if you're doing it from the threshold of it being a optimal, no, there's just no scientific evidence to support that cessation of meat was ever part of or should be part of our development. And I believe that if you want to do it for religious reasons, or just because of your conscience, then that's fine. I don't see any way to say that we evolved without it. I don't see any cultures that evolved whole cultures generation after generation without it. And so I've also encountered people who are like, I don't want to talk about evolution. And I'm like, oh, well, if you don't want to talk about evolution, I'm sorry. I'm not going to get into a religious debate about my diet either. This is for me. And for me, this works. So everything I've led me to down to this point has told me that vitamin C, will I get scurvy? No, because vitamin C looks a lot like glucose on a molecular level, and competes for transporters with glucose. So a big glass of orange juice will give you a lot of vitamin C and a lot of glucose, of which you'll get more glucose than anything, and fructose, which is the one. So glucose can be picked up directly from the bloodstream. Fructose has to be metabolized by the liver, which is why it leads to fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver, and a few other things. So people will often tout fruit sugars or honey. Oh, honey has a lower glycemic index. Yes, it does, because it doesn't send sugar into your bloodstream. You are correct. It sends it to your liver. It's still sugar. It's still causing metabolic damage. Sugar is not something we need. So I bypassed this on my common sense thing. There are essential fatty acids. There are essential amino acids. These are things your body needs but cannot produce on its own. There are no essential carbohydrates. So your body, through a process, there's multiple processes. The most efficient one, I think, is gluconeogenesis. There's also a process where they can take lactic acid. Your body, your cells can take lactic acid and reintroduce it to the Krebs cycle, I believe, and produce energy that way. Again, I'm not an expert on this. I'm regurgitating things I've heard, but I believe the people that I listen to, and they've told me that your body can produce its own glucose. And so I'm like, oh, that's interesting. If I don't need to eat any glucose, and glucose comes from plants, okay, that's cool. Why am I eating glucose when my body can keep it level? And so fast forward a little bit, I've given this enough research. I'm going to pull the trigger. I've been slowly eating mostly meat most of December, but still having some olives and salami and cheese are my favorite keto snack. I eat that for lunch, or breakfast actually, because I eat breakfast at 2 p.m. But I eat that all the time. So I go ahead and pull the trigger, and I go meat only. And because I've been doing keto for a long time, because I've been fat adapted, and because I've been doing high intensity exercise, another thing about CrossFit is it tests over broad time domains and broad intensities. So it's triggering a lot of different systems within your body. A lot of different metabolic pathways are activated. You've got your
Yeah.
glycolytic, the first few reps, creatine. The higher intensity, but not your first few reps. That's the glycolic, I think, or glycolytic pathway. That's where sugar and glucose comes into play. And then you've got your anaerobic or your fat pathway. That anaerobic fat pathway. So aerobic with air, anaerobic. I'm sorry, so I misspoke. It's the aerobic pathway. So anaerobic means without air, basically. And what it means is that you've created an oxygen deficit. You can't continue. So
this leads to stitches. Am I right in saying stitches? Is that right?
Yeah, that's
Excuse me.
often just from going out, either having a little electrolyte imbalance or just an oxygen deficiency there. But so if you're in the gym and you're lifting heavy fast, you're going to have to take a break. That's an anaerobic. You've created an oxygen deficit, which you cannot overcome. You have to take a break. You need more oxygen. Or you can do aerobic, which you can continue for hours because you have no oxygen deficit. You can supply the oxygen to continue that action. So that's why when people say they're going to do aerobics, they're talking about a 30-minute run, an hour on a bike, something like that, something where they don't create. So that last pathway, that when you get fat adapted, you get more mitochondria per cell, you get more efficient, and you get the ketones, which are also more efficient than glucose. So you still have glucose on hand, stored in your muscles as glycogen. You're more efficient at using it. And kind of lost my train there. But let me back up.
Go ahead.
I get so deep down the hole. So you're in that aerobic pathway, but now you've increased your capacity in that pathway to where it's spilling over into the anaerobic pathway. So now you don't need the glucose to go and lift the heavy weights real fast. You've got your creatine to get you started. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but it comes down to the energy. Within a few days of eating meat and salt and water only, I had just the most flat and steady energy I've ever had in my life. I was on 100% from the time my eyes opened until I went to bed. And it intuitively is because the best way to regulate blood glucose is to make it all yourself. Anytime you're eating any blood glucose, any glucose that's going to hit your blood, your body has to react to that. And so when people say ketogenic eating is an emergency, a state of emergency, an emergency starvation, I'm like, no, you don't understand anything about chemistry or biochemistry or biology, because if you eat nothing, your body is fine. If you eat fat, your body's fine. If you eat bread or sugar, your body dumps a shitload of hormones in your body to try to shuttle that out of your veins before it kills you. And you're telling me that that's the standard and that eating fat or nothing, fasting, is the emergency state? Like, you're off your rocker. You have not given this any serious thought. It's quite obvious that if our bodies do not need any glucose, and if you can get all of the vitamins and bioavailable nutrition that you need from muscle meat and maybe an occasional, I don't eat organ meat. I eat liverwurst, that's my multivitamin. I eat liverwurst every other day at least. And my son and my one of my daughters love it. So it's a win-win-win. But I don't eat any organ meat. I eat red meat. I stopped seasoning it with pepper because of oxalates, and also I used to do salt and pepper and Cajun seasoning all over things, but everybody in my carnivore group was like, just get rid of all of the plant food and see how you feel. Every plant food. And I felt great. I felt fantastic. And I kept it up for a month and 3 weeks. And then I tried to pull my wife into it, and she's not, it ain't happening for her.
Oh, really?
It's not for everybody. It's not for as much as I think, as much as I wish it was. And I like to believe it is, it's not. Some people just, there's too much of a relationship with food there. But for me, eating a wide variety of foods made it more challenging. It made it tougher to find a meal. It made and anytime I eat, as I said with the Fat Bomb coffee, anytime I eat, it kind of triggers more hunger. So especially if I'm eating like let's say a standard lunch is going to be a sandwich or something like that. It's going to have just enough to satisfy me for the moment, but it's going to give me that bump in insulin. It's going to have me hungry as hell. No breakfast, I don't get hungry. If I have some, I get starving. So I fast, and then if I have like hamburger patties with cheese on it and maybe some mayonnaise or mustard, it's still pretty close to carnivore. It's still animal products for the most part, but I won't feel as satiated. Whereas if I have a cut of red meat, I'm just not hungry again until 7. And so more often than not, it's boredom that causes me to want to jump and eat some garbage. But all right, so now back to the numbers. I'd been doing a keto lifestyle for over a year. My weight had gone up and down, but stayed at about 185 for over a year, which is a huge win for me because I had spent years at 205 before that, and I'd spent years at 220 before that, and I'd gotten up to 240 before that. So for me, to be able to be 185 and not, this is the other thing, I missed the gym a lot. I stopped working out nearly as often, and my joint pain went away, and I didn't get fat. So I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. So I'll stick with it. So I switched to carnivore, and after a year at 185, I almost instantly dropped to 170.
Oh, wow.
My abs popped out. I could start to see the striations in my chest muscles. My jawline, my double chin completely vanished. My jawline became pretty rigid. My wedding ring that I've had since I was 30 fell off.
Shut up.
So when I was 30 and fit and just met the love of my life and I was hot shit, I was still puffy. My shoulder pain, it came and went on keto with my diet. Same with carnivore. But the level of muscle recovery that I have from the gym, when I'm eating a strict carnivore diet, I just do not have muscle soreness. I do not feel fatigue. There was an adaptation period for the gym, just like any other thing. But it was never with never as bad as it was with keto. Going from a standard diet to keto and going to the gym, I felt like somebody had turned up the gravity by tenfold. But when I migrated into a carnivorous lifestyle, it wasn't that bad. It was just a minor blip. And the freedom that it gives me is the best thing. Like, I can just go about my day. I go to work, and if I don't get to eat at 1 or 2, then I just don't eat. I'll just go drink a cup of water. And it reminds me of my early 20s. And that was the thing. That was the first thing that got me really looking into, I think I skipped over that, but the thing that made me start looking into the diet portion of CrossFit was ravenous hunger. Like, I'm in my 30s, and when I get hungry, my body temperature seems to raise. I get nauseous. I get angry. And it feels like the world's going to end pretty soon. And I'm like, that's not healthy for sure. Why am I so freaking hungry? I just had breakfast. And I remember when I was in my 20s, I'd be hungry and I'd be like, well, there's no food. So maybe I have a cigarette. And then I wouldn't be hungry. And it was not the end of the world. Nobody died. But I've seriously, in my 30s, missing a meal was not cool. It was not on the schedule, man. And that became worrisome for me. So it's been a long time and I ramble a lot, but it's been a long time to get to a place where I feel the optimum human regimen is to wake up and get busy, do high intensity exercise, something that's challenging, something that is not standing still, lifting, using one body part at a time. Unless you have 10% body fat and your biceps are just a little too small to go with your triceps, or your calves are just a little too small to go with your quads, or you're competing in a contest, you don't need to do isolation workouts. They're vanity at best. They're not something that's going to serve you on a metabolic. And I came to this conclusion because I used to have arm day, and I would always wake up heavier the day after arm day because I didn't burn any calories really. I was just doing curls, and I was still eating the same diet.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, I was weighing myself 3 times a day. I was so crazy about this. And I just, at the end of arm day, I felt like I could still work out. At the end of leg day, I couldn't work out. And I was ravenously hungry, and I would rather work out and feel ravenously hungry after. So I go to the gym and I do something intense, something real life. I squat down a lot. I pick things up off the ground a lot. I move laterally. I do burpees and push-ups and
burpees. Yeah.
And doing a burpee is like, why should laying down and standing back up wreck me? But it does. And then I watch my kids and they move. I'll tell you what, there you go. Move like you see kids moving. My son doesn't walk from one room to the other. He sprints. When I'm at the park now and one of my kids is on one side, the other, I don't walk. I sprint. I try to just keep in mind, like, we were designed, or we evolved, whatever your belief system is, the evidence points the same direction. We're supposed to work hard, and we're not supposed to eat first thing when we wake up either. There's no evidence to suggest that humans would wake up and instantly eat. If you have kids, it's hard to feed them first thing in the morning because they're not hungry, because they don't need any food, and that's the same way. If you're used to having to fill your belly, then you'll have a hormonal requirement that you eat. But it's not natural. It's not natural to eat first thing in the morning. It'd be more natural to go out and get some work done, to accomplish some goals, and to settle in and eat late at night. If you're going to eat more than one meal a day, at least don't do it. Don't do it first thing in the morning. And there are people who do that. There are people who wake up and eat one meal a day and then don't eat for the rest of the day. And if it works for them, it works for them. And there's people who do carnivore who still do 3 meals a day or whatever and snack, and whatever works for them. But for me, just looking at what would have been readily available, no fruits and vegetables would have been readily available year round. Ruminant.
You're right. Yeah. Because there's also no agricultural revolution, I suppose, back in the day.
Or irrigation. So seafood, not really readily available to most. Ruminant animals, red meat, available to everybody on every continent, with fossil record to show that that's what sustained us. So what more do we need? Like, as far as evidence, we have the evidence that you do require meat and fat in order to survive. You have to take in meat and fat, amino acids, and yes, you can get amino acids from plants, but they're not efficient. It's a different operating system, to steal from Dr. Paul Saladino. If you eat carrots, you're not getting vitamin A. You're getting a precursor. There's no vitamin A in a carrot. You can get a lot more vitamin A from meat.
Right.
So you're getting or antioxidants. Here's another one that I hate. People take plants for the antioxidants. Those are not antioxidants for humans. Those are antioxidants for the plant. That's something for the plant. So when you eat an antioxidant from a plant, it is a pro-oxidant for a human, and it triggers the release of glutathione, which is the human antioxidant.
You're kidding me. You are kidding.
It's produced by humans. So you're telling me that it's a hormetic response, that it's healthy to eat minor doses of toxins because it will release my own endogenous glutathione, which is my antioxidant to protect humans. That it operates in my biology, not plant biology. Well, what if I just don't take the toxins? Well, then you won't be strong enough to handle it. I kind of think I will. Okay, broccoli. Here's a brilliant thing about broccoli. I said plants don't like to be eaten. I don't know the names of the chemicals, but there are 2 components in broccoli that, when combined, are pro-oxidant. They're an oxidizer. and it's an oxidizer for animals and for plants, but broccoli still has it in it. It's evolved intelligently enough as a plant to keep these two components encapsulated with a membrane between. So if broccoli is cut or chewed, the elements combine and it becomes toxic on a very small scale to animals.
Goodness me, that's like not to
telling
make a
me we're not supposed to eat that?
Wow, that is unbelievable. That is
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Beans, magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. Farting is not an evolutionary advantage.
It is fun though. No, indeed. Uh-huh.
Can you imagine sleeping in a cave, like a little smoke trailing up behind you? You rip an ass and a saber-toothed tiger comes. That's the beans.
God, when you word it like that, actually, you're right. It makes it makes no sense indeed.
If you reduce it to the ridiculous, it truly is. It truly is. And I'm having a little bit of fun here, but all right. So we know plants don't. That plants have these defenses that may or may not have a hormetic effect.
Mm-hmm.
But what does have a hormetic effect is physical exercise. We can all agree on that. So maybe just get your hormesis there instead of eating microtoxins. We know that we can't produce things that we have to eat.
Mm-hmm.
We know that. Well, maybe we haven't covered this. We know that fat is a better fuel source. We know that protein is not actually a fuel source. People always say, you're counting calories and there's all these calories from protein. Your body only uses protein for a fuel source in very scarce environments. Mm-hmm. It uses amino acids to create glucose through gluconeogenesis. That's true. And it also uses it in insane starvation, but mostly it's building blocks. And
mm-hmm.
So if you were going to build a muscle, where would you find all of the ingredients for that? A cow's muscle.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah,
I'd go for a cow's muscle. Me personally. So it's got to do with, I'm kind of beating around the bush, but it's the operating system there. Elements from plants are not bioavailable, whether it's heme iron, whether it's proteins. There are anti-nutrients that block the absorption that are in there, and the nutrients themselves often have to be converted or altered by our biology, by our hepatic system, to make it suitable for us, which creates, again, more waste. So I've been carnivore for 2 weeks, and I go and I'm at work, and I Google carnivore videos, because I've already been doing this for a while. And I stumbled across Joe Rogan, and this is January. Joe Rogan is now, January is the official month of carnivore, and Joe Rogan went carnivore for January. And I'm just getting started into it. And I think, honestly, I was Googling because I was having some side effects, and I'll get to those. And Joe Rogan is saying, man, my energy's through the roof. I've never felt better. My vitiligo, which is an autoimmune disorder, has gotten better. But for the first 2 weeks, I couldn't trust my butthole. And I'm like, yep, been there. So this is one of the weird things that happened. And this should be a sign. It's kind of gross. I'm throwing it in here at the end.
That's okay. Go ahead.
One of the things that happens in your colon is that it reabsorbs water from the digestion process. When your colon hasn't been used for a long time to do that, it forgets how. When it's usually because fiber in the diet absorbs water, and it gives you stool. So when I first started doing carnivore, I noticed that pretty quickly I didn't have to go to the bathroom at all. And then shortly after that, once a day, I would have like super, just like runs, like the liquid. And that's when I started Googling and hearing about it. And it does go away. And it is kind of troubling. But the fact that Joe Rogan was dealing with it for weeks and stuck with it, I was like, all right, I'll stick with it. Like if he's going through this and he's like a famous guy, who probably was like, I don't need to put up with this shit.
Yeah, that's right.
If he's going to put up with it long enough and say that there's advantages, I stuck with it. And it was another one of those things where it's like, that is gross. It wasn't like I didn't have an accident or anything. It is gross to have that, but to know the scientific reason of why it's happening is because your body is just deficient in its ability to. So anyway, the reason I'm saying this is because,
checks and balances,
you've interrupted the stasis, and now there's a new normal. So now you got to get back to the old normal, to the way that you evolved.
Mm-hmm.
But through all this, you've got where was I going with that? Where was I going with that? I had something there. Maybe I was afraid I was going to fart and lose it. Remind me, what were we?
We were at stools.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I haven't ventured too far. So this is one of my common sense things. When after you're adapted, and you don't have to lose stools, which mine was not as bad as Rogan's apparently. You'll notice that you just don't go very often, and a lot of people are worried. They're like, "Am I constipated?" No, constipated means you have to go, and there's a blockage. You just don't have to go. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't have to go? Your body has assimilated everything you've put in your mouth. What?
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Your body has assimilated everything you've put in your mouth. It needed all that, so you kept it all. There's no waste. Or what there is so small that it takes a while to accumulate enough to need to evacuate. And I was like blown away by that. I'm like, wow. Because that's another thing since I was a kid. Like, why do our teeth rot out? Why do I have to poop all the time? And sometimes it hurts.
Yeah.
And for me, the pooping was a big deal because all the crap that I ate over the years, trying to between the dietary supplements, they all gave me some sort of irritable bowel. I always had reaction to food as far as that goes, or supplements as far as that goes. So just being able to step back and again go to the root cause. I've had my blood work all done. All of my numbers are fantastic. My body fat percentage is low. My muscle mass is right where it was before, but I feel way more energetic. I feel stronger. I feel more endurance. And more than anything, my general mood and outlook have improved to a great degree. So I definitely think, aside from the fact that you're on a zero carb diet and maintaining the glucose level, I believe that there is some accumulation of those anti-nutrients and plant toxins that does have some small effect on our mood and our overall well-being. And there's a ton. There's anecdotal evidence out the yin yang, but there's also there's a Harvard research study being conducted right now. I'm going to submit my story to that group.
Oh, nice.
And there's a ton of evidence about plant toxins with regard to certain diets. There's the APE diet, AIP, autoimmune protocol diet. There's a Hashimoto's diet, which is a type of ketogenic diet, but they all eliminate certain plants because of certain plant toxins that have different effects on different people. And so the perspective is, knowing what I know, plants may or may not have a hormetic effect, but I can get it elsewhere. They may or may not have vitamins and micronutrients, but I can get it elsewhere. There's not, if I was feeding an animal and not a human, if I was livestock.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't livestock to fatten for the kill. Let's say I was preparing a group of soldiers or astronauts or someone who was going to represent the best of us. It would be a mostly carnivore-ish diet with restricted time feeding windows and bouts of high intensity intervals of functional fitness. So using whole body to lift weight, using It's force times distance over time. That's what CrossFit measures. They measure horsepower, both ordinally and cardinally, depending on whether you're ranked by foot pounds or whether you're ranked by first, second, or third. They're solving for a particular equation, and that's why they say functional movements are things like moving a large load a long distance quickly. So a snatch, moving the weight all the way from the floor, standing up. Squats, deadlifts, clean.
Burpees.
Burpees.
That's coming up again.
And that's why you don't see the lateral raises or the curls, because it's not a lot of weight, it's not going fast, and it's not. So they're moves that are categorically unique in their ability to express power. Power being force time distance.
Yes.
So those elements, like that's how you build your superhuman. And
run us past this again. There was the run past this again, the carnivorous diet. The CrossFit.
Well, so first off, time restricted feeding. So
yes. Okay, yeah.
You don't want to consume calories every 2 hours. You want to consume calories, I think, twice a day is the optimal. So I try to eat at 2 and again at 7. From 2 to about 3, I take my time eating. And lately, especially, it's been from like 7 to 10, but it should be from 7 to 9. So I'll have a steak. I'll have maybe strawberries and heavy whipping cream, even though that's not carnivore, it's a strawberry. Strawberries are very low on plant toxins, so I'll allow those. And I make my own heavy whipping cream, which is animal-based. And then the other thing is high-intensity exercise, 3 to 5 times a week. And the intensity is the key. The intensity is the most important factor for ratcheting up results for any kind of fitness program.
So if I was skipping for 20 minutes at normal pace, if I just blasted for 7 minutes, that's much better. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think you should do both. You should test both. Because again, you have different energy systems that your body is going to utilize to produce ATP, which is the cellular currency, the energy for your body. So the idea is to get good at all those broad time domains and different modes. So in a CrossFit day, we generally have some weightlifting that is, for max effort, is rest time in between. We have some gymnastics training, which is a lot of body weight pulling and pushing.
Oh God, yeah, cartwheels and such, headstands,
handstand push-ups, pull-ups, push-ups, things like that. Handstand walking, which is my new challenge. I'm not very step or two before I fall, but that's one that I need to get at. And then there's generally a high intensity workout at the end, and that's where you'll take 2-3 movements and mix them together and go at it as fast as you can without sacrificing form. So let's see, one that I had this week that was quite good was I have a 20-pound weight vest, and I put it on and I did pull-ups, push-ups, air squats, and running. Which air squats is just standing there, squatting your hips below parallel and standing up, all while wearing the 20-pound vest. So those are, I'm pulling with my arms doing pull-ups. I'm pushing with my chest and my arms doing push-ups. I'm doing air squats, which is working my legs. And then I'm running, which is working my cardiovascular endurance and my legs, and quite a bit of my core as well, because I'm wearing a weight vest during this whole time. So yeah, just those mixed modalities and keeping it intense. Whereas before, I would go into the gym, I would sit at a machine, do my set, look at my phone, wait for time, do my set, look at my phone. And this one, I might have a segment of my workout, especially a strength portion where it's weightlifting, where I'm going to have like an EMOM. Every minute on the minute is EMOM. So you set a clock for 10 minutes, and 3, 2, 1, go. When the clock starts, you do X movement. Let's say it's 20 push-ups or 20 bench press, whatever. And then 3, 2, 1, when it hits 1 minute, you do it again. And so you complete the work and you have a rest period So
Oh.
that's one. But there's probably infinite ways that you could structure a workout.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the point of CrossFit, is if it is taking a functional movement or some functional movements and carrying them out at high intensity. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going as fast as you can. It just means that it's as intense as it can be. So, Olympic weightlifting is a great example. You're using explosive power. You're really productive application of force. And so the byproduct of this is, when I was doing just standard bodybuilding type of exercises, I felt bigger and I felt stronger in certain ways, but I would still feel weak doing other things. I would still get winded carrying my kids up the stairs. I would pull a gallon of milk out of the fridge wrong and it would feel heavy, for example. And the more I work on functional fitness, like things like putting a little bit of weight overhead for the squat and maintaining it on that plane. That's something that most people wouldn't do.
I was just going to say to you, something like that, it sounds so simple, but I remember trying something like that once and I just couldn't really do it. But I had like 2 small kettlebells, one on each hand. I've got one foot in front of the other. My legs are open like that, but I have to twist like one foot behind the other foot, and I have to just kind of do a squat, and I just could barely do it. You know what I mean? I was like, and then I'm like trying to stand up, and I'm like falling over to the side, and I'm like, these aren't even big weights or whatever. You know what I mean? Like a small, wee, very specific motion, and I'm just like, oh wait, what is this like?
Yeah, the overhead is such a underused aspect of training. And if you think about it, it's natural. I handed my son something heavy the other day and he popped it up overhead and walked it across the yard. I didn't tell him to.
Oh, nice.
That's just, I worked on job sites doing construction. How do you carry plywood? You carry it overhead. Overhead stability is something that is, I think, part of our DNA. You see people doing snatches. I think that's part of our DNA. If you've got to get something off the floor overhead, you're going to snap it up and catch it. Or the clean, which is the one where you take the weight and you catch it here. There's a million different ways to look at a clean, but it's natural. If you've ever seen somebody pick up a bag of dog food, roll it up over their knees, regrip, and roll it up to their shoulder, that's a clean. You're doing it with a barbell or a dumbbell, it's going to look a little different, but it's the same basic maneuver as far as utilizing the levers and switches in your body to accomplish a goal. You draw a basic diagram of a human and send it to any galaxy where there's intelligent life and say, looking at this organism, tell me how to pick something up off the floor. And it's going to show you the deadlift. That's the most efficient way to pick something up off the floor. And so to say that squatting and deadlifting should be avoided for certain people is no, they shouldn't. That's part of your DNA. I'm not saying you should deadlift 400 pounds. Can you deadlift a gallon of milk? Let's start there. It's all about functionality.
Funny.
If you're telling somebody not to deadlift, you're basically telling them, if you drop something on the floor, forget it. Or if you're telling somebody not to squat, you're saying, good luck getting off the toilet for the rest of your life. Like, these are functional movements.
There was a guy. No, it's been really good stuff. Really, really good. Really good stuff. There was a fella I know, excuse me. He used to do the weights, and I don't know if I've got the terminology right here, but you've got the bar, you're lifting it up, because I wouldn't do the weights, I would do other things, but you've got the bar here on your chest, right? And then you kind of go like that there. What's that called? You said that was a, like this is a clean, this is a deadlift up here, or deadlift up to the waist. Jerk, yeah.
Yeah, so a clean and jerk is when you clean it to get it to your shoulders, and you jerk or press it to get it overhead. And I can get into the nuance between a push press and a push jerk and a split jerk. There's a million different things. That's one of the reasons why I said if you have the budget to go to a CrossFit gym, you'll get professional training. Me, I learned everything off of YouTube and through a few buddies that do CrossFit. So it took me a long time to get ahead of the curve on a lot of my stuff, but it can be done, because the key is not what movements you do. Key is the intensity. And there is some there's some
Yeah.
consideration into the movements as far as you don't want to waste your time doing certain things that are not productive. But in every workout that I see, it has a sub for each movement. Like, oh, if you can't do this, try this. If you can't do this, try this.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Pilates will do the same actually, like a beginner mode and an intermediate level. Maybe lift one leg or whatever. You know what I mean? There's always be something to work around.
Like a muscle up, for example. A muscle up. When I first saw CrossFit, that's what I wanted to do. That was the thing that got me to CrossFit. I was like, look at these guys. They're just flinging themselves up over the bar. And I picture people pull themselves up over brick walls during the zombie apocalypse. Like, that's what you need.
God, yeah, that is what you need. Actually, it is. Yeah, that's right.
So if you get in a workout and it's got that in it and you don't know how to do those, you don't just skip it. There's do pull-ups, do dips. Like, there's always, my point being that the crux of it is the intensity and the continued movement, the maintaining the intensity. It just triggers something about our primitive humanity, I think, because there's nothing more satisfying to me than being out there with some sort of implement that I'm fighting against, and I'm looking at the clock and I'm either racing against somebody, or I see the clock and I'm racing against my own personal best, or just racing against my desire to quit and not give up today. And I will put in the time, I'll put in the work, I'll do another rep, my hands will be sore and sometimes bleeding, and the timer goes off, and I'll lay down on the ground, and I feel like I'm this close to dying, like my heart could quit, that I've pushed myself too far. And within seconds, I'm just so happy that I did it, and I can't wait to try again. It's the weirdest thing.
Good man yourself. I tell you what it is, Michael, I can see the wife there is calling you in there for the tea and such. I wish I could talk to you more, because you've given us like so much good information, so much useful stuff. And it really has been fantastic. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise here. There's this way.
You're welcome.
No worries. There's a wee quote here I was going to give you. I seen this happen in a gym, in a boxing gym, actually. The coach, 50 years old, okay, he can do like really slow chin-ups and pull-ups and all the rest of it. He used to be like All-Ireland heavyweight boxer and whatnot for the amateur levels and everything, and a really good coach. And one day, so he's coaching, and one of the kids, I think the child was like maybe 12, 13, but the father was in to see this kid sparring, you know, and the kid's doing good at sparring. But the father, he's like 50 years old, and it kind of comes up that the boxing coach is also 50 years old, you know. But the father had said, well, you know what, here, you know, it's always downhill after 40, you know. And the boxing coach says, well, here, look, we don't all go down at the same speed.
I like that a lot.
It's not bad. Like, it's not bad. Folks, thank you so much. And Michael D. Thalmann, thank you so much. Folks, if you want to see more of Michael D. Thalmann here, he has got a fantastic science fiction book called Static. It is actually one of my favorite science fiction books. It's only come out in the last few years. It is amazing. Check out Static on Amazon.com. I'll leave a link below in the bottom. And it really was something else. This post-apocalyptic, you got robots and all sorts of things going on. And of course, the baboon, which was an amazing an addition to any story. I did not think that would work, but I did it off brilliantly.
I wrote a prequel. I didn't get enough of Peter the Baboon in Static, so I wrote a prequel. I wrote a prequel called Europa Affair. It's sort of dumb on purpose. Like I took it kind of tongue in cheek. I wanted it to be sort of a Guardians of the Galaxy type of feel to it, but I had a blast writing it, and I got to really flesh out Peter the homicidal sentient baboon.
Good.
And then the one other thing, that quote you delivered was so perfect. I'm now at the age, I'll be 40 in July. I'm going to have my 40th birthday. And I'm, like I said, I'm seeing pictures of me from 4 years ago even. And I'm seeing pictures of me from my late 20s, and I think I look better now. And I've gotten to the point where I'm dying for someone to say, wait till you get my age, and me to find out that they're younger than me. Because it came close to happening. There was a guy a guy on Facebook made a comment when I said something. for the CrossFit Open this year, which is an open competition. You do it online. You submit videos to be scored, and it's fun to see where you stack up against your peers. But he saw that I was in the men's 40, and he said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're 40." I was like, "Yeah, me neither." And another guy at the gym said, "Man, you've got some endurance. You just don't stop." And like I didn't want to get pulled into it, but it was one of those segues where I could tell he was clearly like 10 or 15 years younger than me, and I wanted him to ask me. Come on, just look. I've never been old and been happy about
it. Indeed. Michael, thank you so much, man. This has been such a fantastic pleasure. Appreciate it so much as well, sir.
I'll come back on anytime. Hopefully
fantastic.
With new
love to have you on. I would love to have you on, sir. Love to have you on. And ladies and gentlemen, you folks at home, I hope you've enjoyed yourself. And of course, the rest of your day, stay safe. Have a good journey. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Thank you. Cheers.
And cut.